writers start as readers. Some of you today might be thinking about writing. Is there anybody there? Yeah, all right, great, fantastic. I think we would love to have you as part of our community. No one was born published. Don't be afraid to start writing a book if you want to. We were all in those shoes once. And all of us in this room are in love with books and in love with libraries. There's no better place to come to be part of a community than your public library. A lot of us fell in love with books when we were very young. I remember the first book I could read by myself was Yertle the Turtle. And I remember my mom turning the page and I said, I already know what happens. You don't even need to read. I was very smug. But that was the beginning of my lifelong love of books, and Dr. Seuss is still my favorite author. Can't get better than him. But most of us here don't just read, if I'm right. We live in books, right? We checked out every closet for Narnia. We hoped, some of us anyway, to become orphans and live on Prince Edward Island. Sorry to my parents, but that's what I really wanted. We waited in the woods for unicorns and hobbits. We loved a boy named Heathcliff. And unlike that trashy Kathy, we would not have swanned off with Linton. We would have stayed on the moors where we belonged. And then came the day that some of us decided to become writers. And I wanted to describe the process to you. You've heard of the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, I assume. I'm going to do the Kristan Higgins stages of writing. Stage one is euphoria. We have an idea, a great idea, and we think, oh, I'm going to write a book. I've read books. How hard can it be to write one? I will write my book, and someday people will read that book, and I will hold it in my hands, and I will love it and squeeze it and hug it, and I'll see my very own name on the cover. And so full of joy and excitement, and in some cases sporting a high fever, we get to work. Pages and ideas flow out of our fingertips, and we're writing longhand outside at the beach like Jane Austen or something, or we're clicking on the computer madly and talking to ourselves, and it's so amazing. We are doing it. We're writing a book, like a real book, like 712 pages, right? And every word is a ruby. Am I right, ladies? Right? This book is so good. We love it. Right up until we hate it, which comes to stage two, anger. What were we thinking? This is a hot mess. Why have we spent 62,000 hours on this thing? We could have gone to medical school in that time. And instead we have this disorganized piece of crap, right? Who tricked us into this? Was it Oprah? Was it Nora? Was it Stephen King? Thanks for nothing, you three. Then we come to stage three, bargaining. All right, okay, we put in 62,000 hours, so we have to keep on going because it's like the running of the bulls in Pamplona. If you stop, you die. You bargain with your higher power. You think, fine, I started this. I will finish it. But if I have to put in another 62,000 hours, the least you can do is get me a six-figure advance and maybe an apartment in Paris and a butler. So I'll do it. We finish it up, we polish it, we bandage it, and we send it off into the world. Which brings us to stage four, acceptance. We get a book deal, and it's not six figures, it's 4, or maybe 3. Or maybe there actually is no advance, but we accept the fact that we have to put in our time and we'll get published, and that will be great. Stage 5, denial. There has been a terrible mistake. Someone must have pranked us. The editor is going to call back and say, just kidding, you're exceptionally average, and we want our money back. Which is too bad because if you're like me, you've already spent it filling the potholes in my driveway, not going to Paris. I remember my sister saying, are you going to go to Paris with your first advance? I'm like, no, there it is, the driveway, that pothole. Stage 6 is depression. There are no butlers. There is no mansion. Paris, LOL. You have to keep working on the book. Never mind your 62,000 hours. Now your editor, because you have an editor, wants you to change stuff. And you're not sure if you should, but mostly you do because they gave you money and they patched your driveway. So you keep changing it and you hope it won't be that terrible, but you have no perspective at this point. And then you're finally done and you just try to forget about it, but then you have to write something else and that's not going to be as good because you only had one idea. That was the hot mess. Took 62,000 hours. And then one day, a box arrives at your door and you open it and inside are copies of that thing you once imagined holding in your hands. It's your book. It has your name on it. You pick it up, you sniff it, right? You read the acknowledgments page, you cry, it's your book, and that name on the cover is yours. Which brings us to stage 7, terror. Oh crap. You wrote a book and it got published. And what were you thinking? People are going to read this. People who are not your mother. There will be people who won't like it. And for some cruel reason, they will tell you they don't like it. And then reviewers are going to read the book and they might not like it either. Why on earth did becoming an author seem like fun? Was medical school so damn hard? And then stage 8, joy. I remember that day that I came home from my son's first grade science fair, and there in my inbox on my computer was a name I didn't recognize, and I almost deleted it. It was from Andrea Weaver in Wyoming, and it was my first ever fan letter. Someone had read my book and liked it so much that she wrote to me. She went to my website, clicked on Contact Kristan, and wrote me a letter of how much she liked the book. I read it out loud to my husband and children 4 times. And I cried, but this time they were tears of joy. Since that day, I have received tens of thousands of fan letters, and I have kept every single one. I've answered every single one. I get emails, tweets, Facebook posts, handwritten letters, gifts. My kids can tell when I'm reading or answering fan mail because I have an expression, and they call it fan mail face. And it looks something like this. Now, there's something very special about the genre of romance. And though I've moved into what's technically called women's fiction, I still consider myself a romance writer because I never want to write a book without a love story. I think there's something incredibly brave about believing in a happily ever after, especially these days. It seems when hate and fear and pettiness are so pervasive, some days it can be hard just to get the kids to school or get to your job or take care of your mom or just get out of bed. Some of us might be adrift in a sea of loneliness, feeling unable to connect, wondering if we serve any purpose at all. Worry can threaten to overwhelm us. Will there be another war? Are the oceans dying? Will we have clean water in 20 years? Are my kids safe at school? What if I get sick? This is why books, and especially the books of our genre, matter so much. Romance novels, and including my novels, make a promise to the reader. Every single time there's a contract. If you work hard, if you're kind, if you try to do better, happiness will join you on the path of your life. In my latest book, good luck with that, 2 friends set out to fulfill a list they made long ago, a list that's full of the things they were afraid to do back then. The messages from society, their families, and from themselves have told these 3 teenage girls that they're somehow wrong simply because they're overweight, and that there are things you can only do if you look a certain way. The messages and the girls are wrong, of course. It's what you do that matters, and it's who you are and how you treat others, and yet we live in a society that's obsessed with size and food. I wrote this book because I was the little 4-year-old girl entered into a beauty pageant who was the first one eliminated being told I was too chubby, fat shamed at 4, thank you so much. In middle school, I was a 36C, very popular with the boys, even though I was still playing with dolls. Joey Legg is the reason I went to an all-girls high school, because he tormented me for how I was shaped. In high school, I wanted so much to look like the pretty girls and be thin and athletic. I remember the girl next door was very beautiful, and we'd drive to school together because we didn't have a school bus. And she would talk to me in the car, but not in high school. She was a pretty girl, and I was not. Then came the boyfriend that I had. I remember being sort of amazed that this good-looking guy would want to go out with me. I always considered myself a big woman. I'm tall, I'm broad-shouldered. I can rip a J. Crew shirt in half just by flexing my shoulders. I've been to some degree overweight all of my life. And I remember going to the beach with his tiny, perfect sisters who wore like string bikinis. And on the way home from the beach, he told me that he thought I should lose some weight. And I thought, I have been sucking in my stomach for 3 hours, right? And this is what I get? But I believed him. I thought, I was too fat. And then I got tired, I gave up. I thought, I just want to be single now. I'm just tired of trying to be enough. And that's when I met a boy standing in front of me in line. And I thought, he turned around, he was cute. And I thought, you know what, he likes me or he doesn't. I just don't care anymore. We have been married for 27 years. But, it wasn't that easy. It was me. If you've read Good Luck with That, you see Georgia in her marriage with Raphael, this wonderful man who adores her and thinks she's intelligent and funny and sexy and special. And she can't feel that herself. And that was taken from my own life of being, 26 years of feeling wrong in my own body. And having a guy say, but I think you're pretty, didn't cure the problem. Then all I ever wanted in my whole life was to be a mom. And I thought, if there's one thing that's good about this farm girl frame is that I will be a good breeder, right? That's what my grandfather said. You've got those breeding hips, right? Thank you, Poppy. Right, yeah, thank you. That's just what every girl wants to hear when she's 16. But my grandmother had 9 children. My mom had 3 kids in 4 years, and I thought, surely I will do what biology has planned for me. I got pregnant quickly, easily. I was overjoyed, and on the 12-week mark, I brought my grandmother this huge bouquet of flowers, and I said, Gram, you're going to be a great grandmother. And my family went crazy. I'm the oldest granddaughter. This would be the first child of a new generation. The next day, I had a miscarriage. And so, the doctor said, oh, it's so sad, but it's common, and, don't worry, there won't be any, there's nothing wrong with you, you can have a baby. I got pregnant again a few months later, and this time I wasn't so elated. I was a little scared, and I was right to be. My baby had a lot of problems, and late in the pregnancy, he died. And I had to give birth to a non-living baby, which was the saddest time of my life. And, I don't have the words to describe that. But one of the things that helped me through that time were romance novels. Those women suffered. They became better. They tried. They failed. They got up again and kept trying. And in the end, they always had love. They were always better for having gone through these experiences. And I thought, I have to do that too. I don't want this to be my life, this sad, tragic person that I saw in the mirror. So I thought, one more time for pregnancy, and if not, we'll foster or adopt. And this time, I got pregnant with the girl we call the princess. She's 22 now. And I remember going into labor on January 26th, and for the first time ever, being in awe of my body and thinking, oh my God, look at what it's doing. It's literally turning itself inside out, right? And Am I right? And I had no control over it, but I was like, my God, I'm so strong. I could pick up a truck with all this happening in me, And I got to the hospital, and the doctor took a look. He's like, you're going to have this baby in an hour. And she slid out like a greased otter. God bless her. We barely made it to the hospital before she was out. And there I was in this major city hospital holding my baby on this huge maternity ward saying like, I had a baby. Look at me. I'm so special. Like, and all these other women are grunting and, yelling and stuff. And I'm like, I had a baby. I'm so proud. Does anyone look? It's a miracle, And it was so miraculous. And that's when I started to appreciate my physical self. I think every woman has a different journey to that. But my daughter taught me to love my body for what it could do. It could have a healthy child. I could take care of her, feed her, walk the floor for 36 hours, when my husband couldn't because he's a guy. And I'm sorry, it's always the moms who stay up when the kids have the pukes, right? So I wrote Good Luck with That for that 4-year-old girl that I was, the awkward, unathletic child in a family of athletes. It's a love story, but it's not only a romance, it's a lesson in learning to love yourself, in owning your own qualities, and silencing the voices, even and especially your own, that tell you you're not enough. Like every good romance out there, Georgia and Marley have to learn to love themselves before they can accept love from someone else. Most romance readers are women, though I don't want to discourage any men from reading our books, our beautiful genre. And women have a tendency to put themselves last after their kids or their spouse, their parents, their siblings, their jobs, their friends. And taking care of ourselves is something that sounds great, but it's often last on our list. And by the time we're done with work, with the family, with everyone else's tiny little tasks that we oversee, we're too tired to take care of ourselves and maybe too busy to stop for a minute and really appreciate the amazing, generous, kind people that we are. I wrote this book for my 22-year-old daughter, for my 53-year-old self, for my 19-year-old son, and I wrote it for my readers to show a path to getting to that place where happiness grows from acknowledging our own value and surrounding ourselves with people who recognize our qualities and know we have earned the kind of love that will last a lifetime. I think all of the writers here believe in that message. I know you do. You are enough. That's what romance novels teach us. You are more than enough. That message is shown in the story of an unlikely pairing of a workaholic single dad with trust issues and the dance teacher who wants so much to make her family proud in Priscilla Oliveras' His Perfect Partner. It's shown as two former lovers have to put their past behind them and find a killer in Tall, Dark, and Damaged by Sarah Andre. It's shown as a duke trying to recover from the battle scars of war finds himself falling in love with the woman who's the opposite of everything he thinks he wants in Valerie's An Unexpected Duchess. So you are enough. You are wonderful exactly as you are right now. No conditions. You matter, and you matter to us, the writers here tonight, so much. We want you to carry that message in your hearts. You've given us an incredibly beautiful gift. You've made our dreams a reality. You are the reason we spend hours lying on the floor with our dog trying to act out a love scene, or a car accident scene, or a house fire. You're the reasons we open our laptops every day, the reason we get to play in our imaginations. You've given us the ability to call ourselves writers and given us the gift of your time and attention, and so often your words. You honor us, and it's our privilege to welcome you today, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts.